Hello everybody, welcome to Talk About Houses. I'm Todd.
I'm Juana.
Okay, so today's video is about why this current economic slowdown / recession are going to make home prices go up.
Right.
It's going to make it worse. And you're probably thinking they've completely lost it. This is utter BS. They are goofballs. I've read the comments. I know some of you think we're goofballs.
We're okay with that, by the way. We think we're goofballs too.
We're totally okay with that. But we're gonna talk this through, and at the end of the video, you'll be like, "Oh my God, I can see where they're coming from." Okay, we're gonna start with Wall Street Journal article came out today. Okay, this is like July
23rd,
2022. Article just came out about home builders, and unfortunately, as many of you know, housing starts fell for the first time in about 18 months, substantially, like 16%. And it's getting worse. New homes are being built, okay? The title of the article, the headline of the article was, "We need to keep building homes even if no one wants to buy." Now, Juana, really quick, let's talk about first, there is a shortage of homes.
Right.
And we're not talking about in the MLS. That people, every time we talk about shortage, they go, "I just looked at inventories rising." No. We're talking about the total housing market, all available homes available.
Right. We're talking about the system.
The whole system of homes, right? And we need to catch up.
Yes.
But we have this problem that happening right now. So let's start back with the housing crash, the last big one. And then what happened to home builders? Let's start with that.
Right. So the housing crashed back, 10 plus years ago. And so a lot of home builders got wiped out. Anybody who survived became extremely timid. Okay. So they were building homes, and they were building homes slowly, cautiously, making sure that they were turning the homes as quickly as they could, and they weren't getting caught with inventory. Now, the thing you have to understand about new home construction is that it has a really long lead time. And the lead time doesn't start when they either sell the house or when they break ground on the house. The lead time starts way before that. It starts the raw land, it starts the infrastructure, the sewage, all of that. So it's a really long lead time, all right? So you've got this really long lead time. And so when there's a demand for housing, they start to ramp up. But because it's such a long lead time, it takes years from where we're going to eventually put a subdivision here to actually putting in a subdivision, right? So because it takes so many years, by the time the builders are all spooled up and they're raring to go and they're building all these homes, the market's turned again. So now they're cutting off all the building, and cutting off all the building, fine, that's pretty easy. But remember, that whole spooling up took years.
Okay.
So that's part of what's going on.
So from the article, the United States has a deep, decades-old housing shortage. Also at the moment, home builders across the country are pulling back on development because they can't sell enough homes. Is this what you're seeing anecdotally? Are you seeing home builders say, "Hey, that other subdivision we were going to build, we're not going to build it now"? Right.
So what they're doing is, if they've started a subdivision and they're well underway, they will go ahead and keep working on that. But anything that they are not 100% committed to, that they simply don't have to start, they're not starting. And their philosophy is that they would rather sell less homes and leave buyers wanting rather than get stuck with homes that they can't sell.
That is a problem, because while the challenge for builders in the short term might be they have too many homes and not enough buyers, the challenge for the country in the long term remains precisely the opposite. There are not enough houses for all the people that want them. So how this would normally get solved is the government would subsidize builders to keep building. Meaning what government would do is say, "We're going to give you money. We want you to keep building these houses. Forget about the fact you're going to lose money. Don't worry on it. We're going to give you these like super low interest loans, but we want you to keep building housing inventory, because when the economy gets better, people want to buy houses. We want existing homes they can just move into." Like, that's literally how you solve this problem. The problem is we have a government that wants to incentivize people to buy houses, but they don't want to incentivize the supply side. Would you say that's accurate?
It is. And then the other thing is that government is by design interested in growing its fiefdom, And so I think that they're more interested in public housing, meaning that the government itself builds the housing, rather than doing a public-private partnership or providing incentives to builders to build.
The last year, Freddie Mac estimated the nation housing supply deficit is 3.8 million units, up from 2.5 million in 2018. Mm-hmm. Now, what this means is up. It doesn't mean, it means the deficit of houses is up. It means it's more. So you can see the trend here. We had probably too many houses in the US in 2006, but certainly by 2015, 16, 17, now we have not enough. And you can see in 2018, 2.5 million, 3.8 million is the current deficit of units. And it doesn't really matter what government does. They're not going to build 3.8 million public housing units.
Well, and if they did, I'm not sure that most of us would want to live in them.
Right. And remember, this problem is people don't want to live in public housing. People want their house. They want to live in a residential house in a suburb. They don't want to go live in government housing projects. Yeah, right?
Right. You know, and there are a lot of systemic reasons why people would prefer to not live in government housing. Part of it is a certain amount of stigma to it, whether it's socioeconomic, whether it's previous poor experience. There are all kinds of reasons. But for the most part, we know that people, given free choice, would rather choose where they live, would rather have competition, and so that's where builders come in. Builders are very good about figuring out where people want to live and the types of homes they want and things like that. Government, not so much.
Okay, this is the reason why this is the recession that potentially is going to happen here in the next 2 years. Okay, we don't know exactly when it's going to happen. We have a slowdown. We have this cooling off market going. It's right now we're still in a hot market, going back to a normal market, but the trend is what people are freaking out about, right? And the idea that we don't have enough. We need to build houses, but we have these two things happening. The economy is slowing and interest rates are going up. So that means builders borrowing money to go buy land, buy materials to build the house in the first place are paying more for that. So they have to charge more for the houses. They can't charge more for the houses because the market's starting to slow down. So they're freaking out, like they're just backing off on how many homes they're going to build. This is what the chief economist for Freddie Mac said, Sam Cater. There's an irony to what's happening now. The Federal Reserve is trying to snuff out inflation by increasing interest rates, which is leading to a pullback in construction, which will make housing even less affordable down the road. In a sense, policymakers are solving the immediate cost of living crisis, which is inflation, by making the longer run cost of living, housing, even worse. It is an unintended consequence. Okay? So you have real estate, which is tend to run, like Juan has said, in this boom and bust cycle. The problem is the boom, by the time the boom gets going, the home builders are behind in home building. And when the bust starts or when the slowdown starts, they all stop building. Mm-hmm. And we have now had, every year since 2016, under the 50-year median of homes built. Every year since 2006. Every single year we've built under the median of homes that were built in the last 50 years.
Right.
And so that's a huge problem.
It is a problem. And the government is doing all these things, and like Todd said, you know, the unintended consequence of the economic and monetary policy is to worsen the housing situation down the road.
So people are looking short term. Mm-hmm. Now remember, we went on record a long time ago said the housing market's not going to crash, and people are like, yeah, but they started talking about 2006 and quoting all these crazy things, but anything that negatively affects the housing market makes it even worse in the future. Like this is like here's another quote from the article. Okay, this is the chief economist for Freddie Mac. Unless the government builds new housing itself or creates incentive for builders like Hayden to keep at it when it doesn't make sense, the housing shortage is destined to compound each time the economic winds blow against the building industry. Mm-hmm. So every time we have a hiccup in the economy, the builders pull back, it just makes it worse down the road. The answer for this is government has to step in, and we all know they're not going to do it. They're not going to do it.
Well, and if they do, again, there are unintended consequences that may not necessarily make things better. We'll put it that way.
Yeah. So while people are freaking out about the fact that there's more listings on the MLS than there have been in the last 2 years, even though we're still below 2019 level of inventory, we still have pretty low time on the market. There was another article we're not going to do a video on it, but remember we did a video and said home prices went up like last month, 407,000 median, and that was the highest they'd ever been. Well, that was 2 months ago. Last month, 416,000. So home prices went up last month. Nationwide, median home prices went up. So we're in this thing where the market's going to chill out a bit. There's going to be some hiccups in it. Some people are going to freak out. The high end's probably going to get hurt a little bit because we already did that video where we explain that. But what's going to happen is when we get out of this and interest rates go back down and the home builders haven't built anything, we're going to have housing, run, 4.0 on our hands, where people flood back into the market, push prices up, and by the time the builders get back on board, and they're not going to be there to build enough houses.
Right. Somebody said to me that you go ahead and buy the house that you want to buy. Okay. The interest rate, suck it up for a little while. Whether you're going to do a 7-year ARM or whatever, suck it up for a little while, because interest rates are very likely to go back down again. What is it? Marry the house, not the interest rate. So, kind of keep that in mind. If you are in the market to buy a house and it's the right time in your life, it's the right situation for you, then that may be the right thing for you to do. The idea that we're going to time the market with between the home builders and the recession and the interest rates and getting all these stars to align just right, let's face it, that's not going to happen. You have to make choices about living your life today.
Yeah. We do track some markets where we have seen inventory show up on the market. And the interesting thing is, though, even though the prices really haven't started to go down, even if you waited for them to go down a little bit, the problem is the interest rate is still such that it would have to go down substantially to be able to buy the house at the same mortgage payment. So we're in this situation where everyone that bought a house more than 6 months ago looks like a genius. And everybody else now that wants to buy a house has to have one of two things happen. Home prices have to tank substantially, which is not going to happen. Okay. The other thing was interest rates have to come down, which potentially could take a while. So now we're in this weird period of the housing market where we're going to be in this funky, stagnation thing where home prices bounce around a little bit, interest rates bounce around a little bit. And then by the time this all gets cleaned up and interest rates go back down, the economy starts growing again, home prices are going to take off. And people are going to I don't think you're going to be able to look and be able to say there was this bottom, which was, November 15th of 2023, which it would have been 5% cheaper to buy the house on that date than if I'd bought it 2 years prior or whatever.
No, but I think what you will see is that you will get to a point where the inventory will be sufficient for you to have choices, because that's what buyers have not had. Buyers have not had choices in the last couple of years. They've just been in a frenzy and they've just been desperate. So as inventory levels grow, that's a good thing for buyers because now buyers have choices. As far as the sellers are concerned, the sellers are not desperate. Sellers are putting homes on the market and they're saying, hey, if I get my number, great. If I don't get my number, that's okay. I'll wait. And I'll bring the house on the market in another year or whatever. Most people do not have to sell. Most people are not moving across the country or anything like that. It's just if they could get their number, they'd be happy. But if they can't, that's okay.
Yeah. The reason why we did this video is because we have this belief based on data that there's less homes available than people that want to buy homes. For the long term, we believe housing is a smart investment. Investors we work with, we have not been calling them like other agents who have been calling their clients, past clients in sphere of influence and saying, hey, the housing market's going to crash. You should list your house with me. Right? We haven't been saying that. We're telling people, hey, hang on to your house. Why would you sell it? Remember, if you don't sell your house, we don't make any money. It's almost opposite. Like real estate agents wouldn't tell you not to put your house on the market and sell it. That's how we literally make our money. We don't work with buyers directly. So if you want to buy a house, that's great. We can find you somebody, someone on the team or somebody like that. But we don't work with buyers. So we don't really care if you buy or not. We're just trying to give you information because we are investors too ourselves, and we do buy houses as rental houses. And we've bought one within the last year, and we're not selling any of our investment houses because we don't believe that, even if the market were to go on 5 or 10%, we still think we're better off in 2, 3, 10 years down the road than we would be off today if we sold the house and just then what? Waited for it to go back up to buy the house again at a higher price.
Right.
Because that's the risk. Here's the risk. All of you people who said, and I had an agent tell me this, I told all my people to sell all their houses, and I sold 24 listings in the first 6 months of the year. And I told them we would buy all the houses back next year at half the price. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I can't believe you told them that. Because now what's going to happen 6 months in a year when the home price, and they got all this cash and they don't have a house and home prices start going up again, and they want to get back into real estate, they're going to go back and buy the same houses at more money. That's the potential thing that can happen.
Not only that, but they've paid income tax on the money because they sold a property and they didn't purchase another property.
Okay, that is a huge thing. We need to do a whole video on that. The cost of selling your house because you're trying to time the market, and then you end up paying capital gains tax on your real estate thing because you're not doing a 1031 exchange. You have to sell it and keep the money and then wait a certain period of time before you buy again. And that's huge, and that's another reason why people aren't, because I don't think actual investors believe any short-term change in the market is worth the long-term cost.
No, and remember, real estate is about the long game. It's not about day trading. So if you are doing real estate as a day trader, we wish you luck, but real estate is the long game.
And with that being said, anecdotally, we have seen flippers increase their activity in the last month, substantially increase their activity in the last month, which is counterintuitive because in declining markets, flippers get hurt because it's harder for them to buy it, fix it up, and sell it because then over the time they lose money. But we see even more they're coming out because now they have inventory they can get their hands on that they didn't have before. Right.
So from a flipper's perspective, not only do they have more choices, but there's more competition. So they're coming out and they're saying, hey, we can buy your house. If you don't want to sell your house to us, no problem, we can go next door. So flippers are definitely coming in and noticing the opportunities and seizing those opportunities, which is good. It's part of a healthy market, and flippers have a very important role to play because they tend to renovate houses and do the things that maybe a first-time buyer can't afford to do.
Every month when the new home builder data comes out, we're going to do a video on it. We're going to talk about that and try to track and see when home building picks up again. But the trend right now for probably at least the next year is going to be less and less and less new home building, which is going to mean somewhere down the road there's going to be even less homes available for people to purchase. And when the economy takes off again and people come back in and start buying houses, this whole thing, what we just experienced the last 2 years, we predict is going to happen again.
Right. Real estate is cyclical. We've seen it before. It'll happen again.
Yep. Thank you for watching to the end of the video. Please subscribe, hit the notification bell, give us a thumbs up, leave us a comment, and we will see you on the next video.
Bye.
Bye.